I'm just going to talk a little bit about the genetic test for hair loss. So what causes hair loss? So just thinking for now about male pattern baldness, technically known as androgenetic alopecia. So between 50 and 80% of the risk of hair loss is determined by your genes. There are many other factors involved associated with your health and your nutrition and obviously your age that influence hair loss. But we know that 50 to 80% of that, estimates vary, depends on your genetics. If you know what your genetic risk is, you have the potential to take action with that remaining percentage to actually do something about it and reduce the effects. How does this genetic test work? Actually, all you need is to take a cheek swab, which is sent off to Gene Blitz's laboratories, and they analyse it using the latest genetic testing technology. We then generate a PDF report with that data that explains your results and guides you through it and what it all means. And then that's sent to the customer who's ordered it securely. So what genes do we test? We test two genes. The most important one for male pattern baldness is a gene called AR, the androgen receptor, which is on the X chromosome, and it's the single most important gene in determining hair loss. Because it's on the X chromosome, a man always inherits it from his mother, which is why people sometimes say that baldness skips a generation. And it's related to the response to the male sex hormones, the androgens. And if you have the risk version of the gene, it increases your risk by 3.3-fold, so more than 3-fold higher risk of hair loss. The other gene is a gene with an alphabet soup name I won't read out, which is on chromosome 22. And that's the second biggest risk factor, and it increases your risk by 1.6 times. And we actually test two sites in that gene to ensure that we get an accurate result. And the other thing to bear in mind is these two genes interact, and so if you have the risk alleles in both genes, then your risk factor is increased by a factor of 7. So if you look at the UK population and you look at those alleles, so if you have, for the two genes, you have the non-risk form of the gene, you're in the low risk group, and that's actually, of the male UK population, that's 7%. If you have one of those two genes, it's medium risk, so 1.6 to 3.3 times. And unfortunately for half of us, we fall into the high risk group, and we then have a 7-fold increase in risk of hair loss. What the customer gets after they've done the genetic test is they get their personalised risk report with their name, and it gives you your profile of the three sites we test in the two genes, what their test result is. You get your personal risk score. So your personal risk factor, what your risk factor is, presented in a nice, clear, easy to understand way. And then finally, you get the recommendations of actually what to do about it and what products that PHL can provide to help you address this problem. The key point to make is that it's only worthwhile knowing what your genetic risk is if there's something you can do about it. And that's where the PHL Eco Hair products come in. Thank you.